right at the end of the video, the TA assumes that everyone in the class is a physics major. And of course, you should never assume that all the students in the same class are the same major, or, even coming from the same, academic background. Clearly, different students will have different amounts of preparation for the course. But, do you kind of agree that anytime you find yourself making statements like, I'm sure you're all familiar with, or I know you've all seen this before, you're probably making at least one person in the classroom feel left out, because it is in no way obvious to them. They haven't seen it before. They're not familiar with it. So in those moments, like, what's something you could probably say instead there?
Well, sometimes you could say some of you might. Bringing in some doubt is always good. Not being homogenizing about all of the students or none of the students, but talking about some of the students, talking again about your own experiences, talking about experiences of students from the past. So last year I had the experience that all of my students were physics majors, and we found out that they all knew about this thing because that happened, right? So you can hedge if you're trying to make claims about groups. You can hedge, and that's something that can improve the trustworthiness of your own claims. Right, because it's awfully presumptuous that you know all of those students' experiences. Now this instructor had, I don't remember, a dozen students maybe.
Yeah, about that.
But in the context of my 120-person class, there is going to be nothing. The only thing that all of them will have experienced is that none of them will have experienced the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It is only about all of you, probably, mostly, whatever, and bringing in acknowledging some doubt and some room for variation.
So some of you might would be a much better route to go than all of you or everyone. Okay, exactly. Because ultimately, right, the role of the teacher is to, aid in navigating whatever difficulty there is, and, not just kind of saying, well, that's difficult, good luck, or, this is obvious, so if you don't get it, sorry. Which is, kind of basically what he says at the end to that student that was, an anthropology major, and now she's a physics major. Like, he was just like, whoa, that's a big change. Good luck with that. That's kind of the way he approaches it. But, is there some way, like, instead of saying, whoa, like, that's unbelievable, I'm not sure how you're going to do, some way he could respond to that where, he not only encourages them to, pursue their curiosity in his subject, right? He should be excited that someone wants to, change to his field of study, but also, leverage that diversity, because she's going to bring, different perspectives to the classroom. She might, have different approaches to problem solving as opposed to someone who's always, done physics, and so she might bring some really interesting perspectives to the class, right?
Absolutely, and so you see sort of the activation of a new kind of stereotype threat here, right? That we have not just a student, but a woman student who's transferring in from anthropology. And there's really no need to reinforce the bias that physical scientists might have against the social scientists as less challenging or worthy, and making those kinds of comments in the situation of the class is making it okay for all of those students to have that attitude, and that's not something that we think makes a very inclusive classroom. So, welcoming the student, saying, "Oh, I'm so glad that you've transferred in." And again, being welcoming to everyone. If anyone is coming from a context where you feel a little shaky about your background, come talk to me. We'll see what we can do. I mean, it's the instructor's job to teach all of the students, right? Not just the students who already are doing well enough that they would probably do well enough on their own. It's the instructor's job to identify those folks who need particular help, to help them, as well as the folks who already have had the resources to be able to be successful in the class. So use it as an opportunity to demonstrate, model appropriate inclusivity amongst the other students, as well as making that student feel welcome.
Yeah, and what you just said reminds me of different things that the TA did, and how the TA could have done it differently in order to create a more inclusive atmosphere. And I really appreciate the different resources and things that you listed, because I can just imagine these are going to be, great links to have up with the video so that students who are interested in learning more about these different things like Think, Pair, Share can then go see what's available, what resources are available on the internet to help them integrate this into their classroom.